from Aslihan from King's College London, and the paper is entitled Turkey in World War I Literature as Propaganda.
Hello. Good morning. I am Aslihan Agaoglu, and I'm from King's College London. I'm a PhD candidate there, and it's great to be here this morning. It's so great to see all female speakers, as I'm going to talk about feminism briefly today. So my research focuses on the literature, Turkish literature, and the influence it has on nation building and national identity, and literature as a tool for propaganda during World War I. Okay, so this is the opening line of Edward Bernays' book, Propaganda. In the case of Turkey during World War I, propaganda was largely created by the intellectuals of the era, the writers and the poets who began to talk about ideas such as nationalism and Turkeyism, and their platform for propaganda was the body of literature they created. So to be able to get a better understanding of this issue, we need to look at this timeline. For Turkey, World War I is not an isolated war. It's a continuing process of 1908 Young Turk Revolution, Balkan Wars, World War I, and then Turkish War of Independence. 1908 Young Turk Revolution was against what is called to be a Hamidian regime, the oppressive regime of Sultan Abdülhamid II, and continuing from this is the Balkan War, and then World War I Independence War, and these wars all had a great effect on literature that was produced, the introduction of certain ideologies to the public and intellectuals becoming the leaders of public opinion. But it was the World War I that literature became a vital tool for propaganda. And this period saw the coming of modernization, feminism, westernization, clash of ideologies such as pan-Turkism, pan-Ottomanism, and pan-Islamism, as well as nationalism. Propaganda was a big part of this process. It was a platform where these ideas clashed with each other. Okay, so the construction of culture and national identities has often been inseparable from the discourse of nationalism in the Turkish case. This could be traced back to 1908, the Young Turk Revolution, the heavy censorship on the press that was lifted. It was imposed by Sultan Abdülhamid, and it was lifted to a large extent, and this led to an explosion of periodical publications. During this time, many intellectuals and writers began to publish weekly newspapers and magazines to promote ideas such as westernization, modernization, and mostly nationalism. Novels were also published as serials in these newspapers and magazines before they were published as books. Okay, so according to Miroslav Horsch, the first phases of development of national cultures are characterized by the importance given to history, language, and culture. Development of Turkish national movement also followed this pattern. One of the most potent and widely read journals that focused on Turkism and nationalism at that time was Genç Kalemler, which could be translated as Young Pens. So this was published in Salonika in 1910, and literary names such as Ömer Seyfettin, Ziya Gökalp, and Ali Can, you can see over there, were involved with Genç Kalemler, and they wanted to use this publication for their campaign of new language. What does this mean? It means a simpler Turkish that is purified from Arabic and Farsi words. So Genç Kalemler managed to establish the country's literary agenda, overcoming the strong opposition it encountered, and it did not limit itself to linguistic matters, but also propagated a cultural nationalism, and it had a political overtone. The main objective of the new language movement was to use language and literature as the means of reaching the common people and bringing daily life and culture together. Literary journals such as Türk Yurdu and Genç Kalemler contributed to the creation of an audience that was interested and engaged in national culture and language, literature, and history. So the Turkish writers of the wartime period wrote almost in any literary genre. Even writers today we would call short story writers or nonfiction writers. They basically produced novels, articles, poems. The national literature movement was mainly a platform for propaganda where intellectuals and writers promoted and nurtured their ideas. Many of these writers were also educators and or soldiers who were also politically active. The Ottoman Turkish literary output of the years 1914 to 18, even if superficially full of propagandistic aims, were essentially the continuation of the project to build a national culture inherited from the pre-war years, from the 1908 Young Turk Revolution. Literary nationalists were busy creating a national culture by interpreting these events of the time, while at the same time hiding the representative of other ideologies. This process unfolded with many difficulties, with trial and error and with various changes in direction. Not being subjected to a hegemonic ideology, writers active during this period of 1914 to 18 tried to interpret and describe events on the basis of their personal ideas and those of the groups that they belonged to. We can sum all this up by saying that the literary output of 1914 to 18 did not reflect a powerful propaganda like that was present in the West, but was more of a difficult attempt to create a national identity. We can say that what made the Turkish case very interesting is that we cannot really talk about a systematic state-led propaganda, but it was basically led by a group of influential intellectuals, mainly using literature as their platform, and creating a body of literature to basically create a national identity. I now would like to give some examples of those writers that I've been talking about. So these three authors are some of the most poignant figures of Turkish literature, therefore propaganda of this time. From left to right, it's Ziya Gökalp, Ömer Seyfettin, and Halide Edip Adıvar. I will talk about Halide Edip Adıvar and her work in more detail in a minute, but before moving on to her, first let's look at the gentleman. Ziya Gökalp was considered to be the father of Turkism. His famous quote, "We come from the east, we go towards the west," is a well-established summary of his ideology. Without forgetting their past, the Turks had to reconstruct their national and cultural identities inspired by Westernization. He was a sociologist, a writer, and a political activist whose sociological work helped shaping Mustafa Kemal Atatürk's reforms. Ömer Seyfettin was the founder of the new Turkish alphabet. The new language movement later became the foundations of the new Turkish language. He was also a political activist as well as a soldier and wrote many non-fiction articles, but he's also considered to be the best author one of the best authors in Turkish literary history, basically founding the short story genre on his own. And he was in favor of Turkism, who communicated his ideology through his writings. It is also important to mention that it would not have been, it would have been especially difficult for Atatürk to make the language reform without Ömer Seyfettin's new language movement. And Halide Edip Adıvar, she was one of the most poignant, prolific, and influential intellectuals of her time. Her writer career began during the Second Constitutional Era. Her first article appeared in Tenin magazine, and from then on she was a widely read author on issues such as war, independence, women, education, and nationalism. Her novels are filled with characters and incidents from the wartime, and sometimes through these characters, and sometimes she herself directly, through articles, expressed her opinions to the public on these issues. She was the first person, and the only woman, to ever write the story of the Independence War saga, as she was there at the front with Mustafa Kemal Atatürk as a corporal. Her novels such as Türk'ün Ateşle İmtihanı, which could be translated as Turk's Trial with Fire, and Ateşten Gömlek, which was actually translated into English as The Turkish Ordeal in 1922, chronicled the war days and the Turkish fight for independence. A good example for the kind of propaganda that she was participating in is the famous Sultanahmet demonstrations. This was a series of rallies in 1919 at Sultanahmet in Istanbul to protest the occupation of Izmir by the Greek forces after World War I. Many influential figures, majority of them intellectuals and writers of this period, who spoke that they called for the resistance against this occupation. Halide Edip's speech, you can see up there, was particularly influential. She was especially powerful when it comes to influencing women during and after wartime. This was mainly done through her writing, either by her strong female characters, written as examples of the new, educated, modern, yet morally strong Turkish women, or through her articles in various journals and speeches, such as these. The novels that were written during this era brought forward these themes of new social roles, superficial modernization, and the difficulties that individuals had to face during these turbulent times. Like so many of her work, Halide Edip Adıvar's celebrated novel Handan is also concerned with these issues of educated, modern women's place in society and the dangers that the family unit may encounter in the face of rapid modernization. While Heide writes from a well-educated modern woman's point of view, she's specially focused on how changing social roles and shifting cultural identities basically affect the society as well as the individual and the difficulties that arise. Handan is perhaps her most autobiographical novel. It was published as a serial in Italian newspaper in 1912 and same year as a book. And it brought widespread fame to Heide Odovar, making her one of the most widely read authors in the country. Okay, so the author's choice of technique in narrating the story of Handan is intriguing because Handan's a well-educated, smart, and cultured young woman, but society is not yet ready to accept her. So she stands out and she's regarded as strange and odd. And instead of Heide telling the reader's story directly or letting Handan tell the entire story, the author lets those around Handan, as well as Handan herself, tell the story via letters they write to each other. In this way, the reader gets to hear her story from herself, her immediate circle of friends and family, as well as remote acquaintances. So we see how Handan is perceived through different perspectives and different circles in society. For this reason, Handan can be regarded as a novel with multiple layers, which highlights the point Heide tries to make about intellectual women who are misunderstood. Handan tells the story of a young woman, which the book is named after. She's a well-brought-up woman, raised with British education and manners, always grabbing the attention of those around her. On the surface, the novel is a love story between Handan and her brother-in-law, who takes care of her during her miserable marriage and illness. However, the multi-layered structure of the story contains more themes than a simple love story, such as the conflict between East and West, feminism, modernism, and traditionalism. The story unfolds with flashbacks and letters written between characters. Therefore, the reader has the advantage of experiencing the story from multiple perspectives. It could be argued that Handan is one of the very first of its kind in regards to bringing women's issues into light and pioneering feminism in Turkey. The conflict between East and West is a large issue in Handan. Most of the characters are very modern in the way that they have been educated and they speak several languages, including perfectly fluent English. Most of them have lived in Europe at some point and they do not feel misplaced when they go to Europe. So the novel opens up with a letter from Refik Jamal, the brother-in-law, to his friend who lives in Paris, Sardar, as making a big announcement to his friend. I am getting married, Sardar, and you won't believe to whom, one of the modern daughters of Jamal Bey. However, the reader also sees that this highly sought-after modernization and westernization also causes discomfort in society. Many struggles with themselves as well as with others while this cultural transformation takes place. Heide is a supporter of westernization and modernization, but she also highlights that this process is not without its difficulties, especially for women. In conclusion, literature was at the heart of life during this time in Turkey. From the Young Turk Revolution to the early years of the New Republic, literature was a platform for propaganda, a tool to infuse new ideas and familiarize the new reforms that reshaped the national and cultural identity in Turkey. From Islamic empire to secular nation, changes occurred in every aspect of life, such as the abolition of the caliphate, introduction of secularism and civil law, the change in outfits, education, alphabet, even ways to socialize. So basically, two different genders socializing with each other. Literature played a vital role in two dimensions during these changes. It was used as a platform for propaganda, as well as a mirror which demonstrated the aftermath of these changes.